parents entrust the care of their children to babysitters with the expectation that they will provide a safe and nurturing environment. However, it is a heartbreaking reality that some cases of child abuse and even death involved individuals who were trusted and relied on. Such is the case of Hannah Wesche, a 3-year-old girl from Butler County, Ohio, who collapsed in her babysitter's home on March 8, 2018. Hannah suffered a severe head injury and had several bruises on her face, neck, arms, and body. She died 10 days later. Police questioned 36-year-old Lindsay Parton, Hannah's neighbor and babysitter. While she changed her story multiple times about Hannah's fall and her injuries, medical evidence and expert witnesses would prove otherwise. Parton was convicted by the Butler County Common Pleas Court on April 2019. She was charged with murder, involuntary manslaughter, and 4 counts of endangering a child. Her sentence, life in prison with a possibility of parole after 18 years. Fast forward to 4 years later, and Lindsay Parton remains behind bars at the Dayton Correctional Institution. But her quest for justice continues. She maintains her innocence, and her family and friends wholeheartedly support her. Parton believes she deserves another trial because she didn't do anything to hurt Hannah. Hannah Wesche was born on January 11, 2015. Jason would raise her alone, as her mother, Adrienne Latham, was arrested for selling and using heroin. Hannah would also have to live with a heroin addiction, unfortunately inheriting it from her mother. When she was about 2 years old, she and her father moved to Shank Road, Hamilton, Ohio. Her father found a job at a construction firm down the road and left Hannah to a babysitter so he could work. He would drop Hannah off at Lindsay Parton's home as early as 7 a.m. and pick her up after his shift. This was Hannah and Jason's routine for 8 months. However, something was quite different on the morning of March 8, 2018. Within minutes of reaching her babysitter's home, Hannah would collapse from a fall that would end in her tragic death 10 days later. Lindsay Parton stands 4 feet 11, with straight blonde hair and a petite frame. She lived at 4050 Shank Road in Butler County, Ohio, with her longtime partner Timothy J. Smith and their 2 daughters. Lindsay had an associate degree in preschool education and accepted babysitting jobs as a side hustle. Aside from this, she also worked as a bookkeeper for her father and as a Mary Kay consultant. She started babysitting Hannah Wesche in 2017. Though she was resentful at first, she soon grew to love Hannah and treated her as her own. She would look after her 5 days a week for 8 to 12 hours every day. She fed the little girl and sometimes washed her clothes. Parton was paid $30 a day, but Hannah's father was often behind with his payments. Hannah was quite mischievous as well. She once dumped ketchup in her babysitter's toilet. At this time, Parton was also having problems in her personal life. She had suffered a miscarriage a few weeks before Hannah's death. Her relationship with Timothy was also on the rocks. Add to that the stress of taking care of her 2 young children and 2 others, including Hannah, all under the age of 4. Hannah's grandfather would soon notice several bruises on her chest. Hannah would tell her grandfather it was the babysitter who did it. Jason would also notice a deep scrape on Hannah's chin, which the babysitter would attribute to her stepping on a toy and falling off. According to Parton, Hannah also fell on some gravel. And when Hannah collapsed minutes after arriving at her babysitter's home, Lindsay would say that she had no idea what had happened. In subsequent police interviews, Parton would change her story multiple times. She would confess to the police that on March 8, 2018, Hannah couldn't stop whining after her dad dropped her off. She eventually admitted to shaking Hannah until she stopped whining. Parton dropped and then shook the little girl when she wasn't responding. She would also admit to hitting Hannah upside the head, aggressively poking her on the chest, and squeezing Hannah in the middle of her body. She also recalled striking Hannah's chin with an uppercut fist twice. When she was cross-examined, she said that she believed it was okay to hit Hannah, squeeze her in the middle, or shake her. According to her, it was all part of disciplining a toddler. She also thought that Jason would support her method of disciplining the little girl. The judge, however, thought otherwise. Lindsay Parton was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder, involuntary manslaughter, and 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. Lindsay Parton says that she is innocent and did not endanger Hannah in any way. In September 2020, appellate attorney Neil Schutt filed an appeal to the 12th Appellate District Court of Butler County, Ohio, on her behalf. They want to overturn Parton's conviction and set her free. According to her lawyer, the trial court made several errors in Parton's case. They claim that the prosecution did not disclose some facts and that she received ineffective assistance from counsel. During the 7-day hearing, doctors who attended Hannah at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital confirmed that Hannah's head injury and multiple bruises were not caused by common childhood accidents but manifestations of child physical abuse. Parton's defense lawyer questioned the inclusion of the forensic pathologist Dorothy Dean's testimony regarding the location and patterns of Hannah's bruises. They argued that Dr. Dean's statements under oath were not included in her written report. The jury, however, stated that her opinions were within the scope of the opinion letter and that testimonies from the other doctors corroborated her findings. The defense also highlighted Jason Wesche's inconsistencies in his testimony. When questioned by the police, Jason was so distraught about his daughter's condition that he failed to mention that there was another person with them the night before March 8th. He first stated that on the night of March 7th, he and Hannah went to buy milk at Walmart. However, detectives did not find milk in his home. 2 days before his testimony, Jason recalled that his friend Chris was staying with them. Parton's counsel argued that the inconsistencies indicated Jason or Chris as suspects. However, the court declared that Jason's whereabouts and the fact that there was another person in their home were not relevant to the case. The medical evidence showed that Hannah's injuries would render her unresponsive within minutes, so she must have sustained them in the short time she was in Parton's home rather than the night before when she was in her own home. In addition to these, Parton also claimed that the police officers forced her to confess. The court reviewed her police interviews and found that this was not true. The police read her Miranda rights, and she willingly signed the Miranda waiver forms. They did not see anything in the detective's demeanor or their language that would suggest that Parton was coerced or threatened to admit the crime. Parton's lawyer also challenged the trial court's decision for lack of evidence for child endangering, involuntary manslaughter, and murder. In contrast, the appellate court found sufficient evidence based on the written reports and testimonies of Hannah's attending physicians, the child abuse specialist, and the forensic pathologist. While Parton's lawyers raised several grounds for appeal, the appellate district court recognized the expert witnesses' testimonies and written reports, along with the police interviews, as substantial evidence to uphold her conviction and denied her appeal. For years into her life sentence, Lindsay Parton continues to affirm her innocence. Lately, she's found hope through a photo shared on the YouTube channel Truth and Transparency. She believes this photo of 1-year-old Hannah, with bruises on her chest, would be her ticket to freedom. The picture could prove that Parton did not cause all of Hannah's injuries and may reduce her sentence. At the very least, she could get a new trial. While her lawyers continue to build her case, Lindsay remains at the Dayton Correctional Facility, trying to stay productive despite being behind bars. She does her laundry and attends music therapy and parenting classes. She's also training to become a peer mentor to help inmates with their issues. In addition, Pardon also assists other inmates in getting their high school diplomas and writing file briefs for their release. While Pardon sits behind bars, armchair investigators and true crime bloggers have tackled her case with gusto. With the discovery of this new evidence, everyone is eager to see how the next chapter of this case will unfold. Hannah Wesche's case demonstrates how excessive discipline can endanger the welfare and even the life of a child. When a child gets hurt or, worse, dies due to physical abuse, it is up to the authorities to determine the severity of the abuse and the corresponding penalties. Endangering the welfare of a child is a serious offense, especially when it leads to more serious crimes such as homicide or murder. And while appeals can be made, evidence plays a crucial role in upholding or reversing a criminal conviction.